Hi, I'm Jennifer Kaufman.
And I'm Eric Maman. Up next on the Norman News Service, we'll tell you about this week's student body elections and about last weekend's senior prom.
We'll also tell you about David Toma's return to Beverly. Carl will review Amazing Grace and Chuck, and David and Marlo will bring you all this week's sports. All that plus much more when Eric and I return in 60 seconds.
Associated student body elections will be held this week as campaigning comes to a close for next semester's positions. A special election assembly was held today. At the assembly, candidates for ASB President Robert Rich and Robert Zakari participated in a question and answer session before the student body. The primary elections this Wednesday, June 3rd, will match Alex Cohen against Nika Gutman for ASB Vice President, while Christy Park and Nina Weber vie for the position of ASB Secretary. Finally, elections will be held this week, Friday, June 5th. And now here with the two candidates for ASB President is our own Tasha Advani. Tasha?
Thank you, Eric. I'm here today with Robert Rich and Robert Zakari. Robert Rich was sophomore and junior president, and Robert Zakari was freshman president and sophomore vice president. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hi. Hello. Thank you.
How did today's new format of the question and answer period, how did that do for the campaign, Robert?
Well, I thought it was a good idea. The new question and answer gave the candidates a chance to really say more than in the 1 minute time that was permitted to us. I thought it was a good idea, and it gives future candidates a chance to say what they want.
Do you think it helped your campaign?
Well, I didn't think it was as important as the speech is, at least even though I voted in ASB this semester to have the question and answer period. After having gone through it, I think that it would have been better to have a 3-minute speech as usual, and then to maybe have a very short question and answer period. But I don't think the students were really paying much attention to what we were saying. It was really difficult to you know, they want to hear jokes, and it's hard to ad-lib jokes rather than say serious things. And I think we were both saying serious things, and they just didn't want to hear that.
What do you plan for next semester? What new ideas can you bring to Beverly?
Robert.
Robert number one.
Well, I think first of all that we have a lot of problems in the school, and that has to be our first priority. You know, more so than the new things that we want to bring in, to sort of refurbish what we have. You know, we have a parking problem situation. I think that, as I said in my speech, that we should. We have a lot of vandalisms going on, and yet we pay all this money and we get no security for it. That's one issue.
What about you, Robert?
Well, I also thought that another major point was that maybe we should have some more stuff for the students. I think this semester was a real dry spell in ASB, and nothing was done for the students to have something.
But every year we hear the same thing from all the candidates. They're going to bring new ideas and better what happened in the past.
Well, what happens is you get a person in there who has all the enthusiasm, but once they're there, their mind gets off other things. Because in ASB you have an agenda, and the president has to go through all those little things. I think the difference about that I will make is that I'll follow those programs through. Instead of appointing 15 people to do my job, I'll go first and check out what's going on instead of having other people do my work for me.
I think we're both qualified in that respect. I mean, Robert's right. In the past, presidents have not, they promise all these things and they get elected, and it's like, whoa, a whole semester goes by. This year we had the sock flop, and it was, when you look at it, it's, whoa, what was that? Whereas, both of us are, whoever you get as president, we're going to get a much better year.
In one way, how do you two differ? I mean, you both seem qualified, you both have experience. How do you differ, Robert?
Well,
from
I don't.
Robert.
Well, Robert and I have been friends since third grade. We don't like mudslinging, and yet that's something that happened in the assembly, unfortunately, and I didn't mean to do anything like that. But, thanks, Rob. But in terms of comparing us both, I think I do have a lot of dedication to ASB, and I've been in ASB for the last 2 semesters. That's not to say that my opponent, Robert, doesn't have dedication, but that with these new problems that we have, somebody has to be in ASB to understand what these problems are and to have worked with board members and administrators and students to try and bring about change. But if you haven't been in ASB for a long time, that might become a problem, as has happened in the past.
What sort of ideas, do you have any new games or activities planned, Robert?
Well, as I was looking through my files, which I have none, my files of lunchtime activities, we've in the past have pretty bad activities. I was thinking of maybe getting some lunchtime activities, because the second floor patio seems to be a really good place to have activities. Maybe have something more fun. I mean, once a rib eating contest was brought up.
A ribbon.
Yes, without hands, which I thought would be a good idea.
Okay.
And watermelon eating contests without cutting them up, like trying to break it with your face. But also activities that would really benefit the student body.
Like watermelon.
Yes, benefiting watermelon.
Well, it makes them have fun. I think
Yeah.
I think that we should have lunchtime activities every other Wednesday. So you have one every other week.
And you would come up with these ideas, or would you?
Yeah, you only have to do 10. If we're in first semester, that's so simple. 10 lunchtime activities every other week, and everybody knows that on this Wednesday, we're going to have a lunchtime activity. And everybody's involved because they're all going to be at the second floor patio when that happens.
Do you think that's your top priority, to more activities?
No,
or more?
that's not my top priority.
What is your top?
Mine personally is the budget problems, because if we're having a lot of budget problems with the Board of Education, and how that's affecting our student body is really detrimental, because and a lot of kids in the assembly, at least, when I talked about that, said, wait a minute, or thought we want to have more fun rather than, but I try to explain to them that if we don't solve the budget problem, then we can't have any activities. We won't have any money. You can't do anything without money. So that's the first priority, and then one thing leads to another, and then we'll have more activities.
And what about you? What's your number one priority?
My number one priority is, that's where we differ, is I think the budget board problem has been going on too long. I think we've been sucking away from the basis of of student body and how we've been together. I think we should concentrate less on that. We should not ignore it, but maybe have some more stuff for the students. I mean, the students are tired of hearing, teachers are edgy now, they're kind of mad. I mean, they're not going to be working here next year. And I think students have already felt the detrimental aspects of it, and I think maybe they should have some more fun or more activities.
And what problems did you see with last year's administration? Do you think there's something that you can personally better?
Last year's ASB administration? Well, yeah, I felt that there was a very serious issue at hand. And again, I must stress that the budget issue is a very important issue, more important than going out and giving activities, because as I said, without them, you can't have the activities. The ASB administration sort of fluffed it off. They didn't deal with it. They didn't go to the Board of Education. I did. I went there.
All right,
and
good
talked
luck
to
to
them.
both of you.
Thank you
And
very
now
much.
back to more Norman News with Eric.
Thanks, Tasha. One of Beverly's biggest proms ever was held last Saturday, May 30th, at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. The students started to arrive in limousines at 7 in the evening. The gala event lasted until midnight. The theme of this year's theme was 100 Years of Hollywood. During the course of the evening, senior poll winners were announced by senior Stephen Foonberg. Best Looking Girl was awarded to Jenny Krieger, while Best Looking Male was awarded to Billy Koch. Best Couple was given to David Corwin and Kim Cook. According to organizers Michelle Gold and Nicole White, the class of 1987's prom was a big success. After the prom, students went to the Palace in Hollywood for more dancing and breakfast, which was not sponsored by the school district. Jenny?
The City Council recently announced that it will give the district $4.1 million in order to help the school balance the budget. The council had agreed several months ago to provide funds for the district, but had never agreed on a specific amount. City officials say that the $4.1 million will not cover the entire deficit, but will certainly take care of the $3.5 million shortfall that the district faced. Now that the city has turned over these funds, the school board will be able to keep a balanced budget. The district will still, however, have to go ahead with the cuts they have made, but will not have to make any further ones. We'll now turn over to Colin Yost, who has all this week's city news. Colin?
Thank you, Jenny. One misdemeanor count was dropped in the Judge Bogues ticket-fixing case in a hearing on Tuesday, May 28th. Bogues is still subject to 2 other charges for suspending 207 parking tickets for his son and other Beverly Hills High School students. A hearing on the remaining accusations will occur on June 30th. In other news, The La Cienega water treatment plant was saved from destruction on Tuesday, May 26th, when the City Council withdrew their decision to demolish the building. Attorneys from the Friends of the Waterworks and the city agreed on an out-of-court settlement. The council has now turned its attention to preserving and reusing the water treatment plant and has requested that an environmental impact report be conducted. Another update, Century's Southwest Cable franchise agreement has been extended by the council for the 13th time on Tuesday, May 26th. The new deadline is June 16th, and this new deadline will give Century yet another chance to prove its financial responsibility and run the city's cable program. Jenny?
David Toma, a former police officer and drug addict, made a return appearance to Beverly on Friday, May 29th as a follow-up to his April 1st presentation. Toma met with small groups of students who were scheduled private appointments and were able to receive one-on-one counseling with Toma. Toma's return was made possible by the efforts of the Board of Education, the high school's Drug Advisory Committee, and the Men and Women's Guild at the Maple Center. We'll now turn over to Gita Amar and her guest, Greg Roth. Gita?
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Greg, for coming in.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I'd like to know, what is AFS, first of all?
Well, to put it simply, AFS is a worldwide organization that helps young people like us go and experience another family in another country. The purpose being that a closer understanding, an understanding of the personal aspects of life in another country will help the world come closer together and help everyone understand one another better.
Since you went to Norway last year on this trip, you can tell us, how does a student get involved in the program? For example, how are the students this year getting involved who are going?
Well, students this year first have to fill out a preliminary application, and then they go through a series of 3 interview sessions to make sure. It's not the interview sessions that are involved are not intended to screen people out to make sure that they don't get in. It's their intention to really make sure that the people, the interviewees, get placed with the right family, and it's really important that they do that they get placed with the right family, because if, of course, the family doesn't match.
It's not going to be an enjoyable experience.
Right.
Is there any charge to the student, or?
Oh yeah, there is a charge for a student going overseas. When I went on the program, it was $2,350. But that includes airfare, and since I went to a very isolated place, that price more than pay. I mean, that their AFS's contribution to my homestay was much greater than I actually paid for.
So can a student choose the country he wishes to travel to?
No, the idea and philosophy behind AFS is that a student is placed with a family and not a country. A student shouldn't choose to go to another country because then everybody would choose the French Riviera, and there aren't that many families there. And first of all, it's more of an educational process that goes on if a student gets to go to a land such as Colombia or Peru or Sri Lanka or who knows.
What are the difficulties one might face? Since having been to Norway, of course, there's a language problem, culture, families.
Well, that's primarily it. I don't know about other problems besides. I lived in. It was a comfortable environment in Norway, but the primary difficulty I had, of course, is with the language. But it's not that hard to overcome. I mean, you're with people that
are willing to teach you
and are willing to teach you, and it's a real good experience.
Well, thank you for coming in, Greg. We appreciate it. Now back to more Norman news with Jenny.
A picnic at the beach is planned for Sunday, June 7th for the teens and elementary students involved in the Big Brother, Big Sister program. The picnic, which starts at 10:30, is sponsored by the Maple Center. According to director of the program, Daryl Preeb, both the teen Big Brothers and Sisters and their younger siblings have been looking forward to the picnic for quite some time. And he believes that this is the definite culmination of the program. He also added that those interested in becoming Big Brothers and Sisters for the program next year should contact him at the Maple Center. The number there is 277-9999. That number once again is 271-9999. Eric?
Well, Jenny, Beverly's own Associated Student Body will join the staff of the Beverly Hills Education Foundation in their fundraiser on June 7th. At 2 p.m., members of ASB, the Interclub Council, students, and members of the BHEF will meet at the corner of Santa Monica Boulevard and Crescent Drive. They will solicit ads for the next year's School Spirit calendar book for the various stores in Beverly Hills. The annual School Spirit book raises revenues for the BHEF and subsequently for the Beverly Hills Unified School District. Well, the Shield Honor Society held a banquet last week, and our own Norman News crew was there.
Hi, I'm Gregory Roth, and we are here at SHIELD's 5th Annual Awards Banquet to honor those members of SHIELD who have given so much to our community. Let's take a look.
Our biggest event and success, in fact, was the carnival, where we sold hot dogs, and we made over $500, and that was one of the highest amounts made by any club. Okay, and we really want to thank our sponsors for making this year really wonderful for us, and that's Mr. Ray and Dr. Sussman.
You represent the continuation of an honor service heritage that started even before I came to Beverly Hills in 1965. In those days, you heard such names as Knights, Ladies, Alphas, Adelphians, Squires, Ephebians, Boys League, Girls League, and then in the late 60s and early 70s, they all disappeared. And we really felt a lack for a number of years. I tried to think today what it is that sets you apart. What makes you as individuals a member of a group that achieves in academic areas and still finds the time and the energy to be involved in family, school, and community contributions.
This is co-sponsor of SHIELD, Dr. Barbara Zussman.
That's right.
How are you doing this evening?
Just fine, just fine.
In a word, sum up this year for SHIELD.
So I think it's been one of its most successful years. We've done the usual thing at the Veterans Administration, and thanks to this news media service, we've actually made the press this time. We have a tape that Jeff took for us at the Veterans Administration, so we know it was successful.
This is Carlo Mori, first president of SHIELD back in the 1982-83 school year. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
How has SHIELD changed?
Students enrolled in American history participated in the Golden State examination for U.S. history last Wednesday, May 28th. The exam was established by the Educational Reform Act of 1983 to recognize honors level achievement by individual students. Tests in key academic subjects, including mathematics, science, English, foreign language, and history are administered each school year as end-of-course examinations. Students will receive their examination results and be recognized for honors level performance in the fall of this year. Well, now Marlo and David are here to tell us how Beverly's sports teams are doing. Marlo?
The boys varsity tennis team received unexpected news in the midst of their preparation for their semifinal match against Santa Barbara. The Netters were disqualified from the CIF playoffs and had to forfeit their whole season due to a technicality of #1 player Donnie Isaac. Coach Jason Newman forgot to file a form of transfer with the CIF office for Isaac, who moved from Iowa at the beginning of the year. When CIF was notified of this information, they immediately forfeited all matches Isaac participated in. This was nearly every match. Corona Del Mar and Buena, the two previous opponents that Beverly had beaten, were then able to play each other for the right to play Santa Barbara. Beverly was expected to strongly contend for the CIF title. David?
After just squeaking into the CIF playoffs, the varsity golf team came alive and won the regional finals by 14 strokes 2 weeks ago. The Beverly Golfers then moved on to the Southern Section Finals, where the top 4 teams would advance to the state championship. After completing play, the Normans were tied for 4th with San Marcos, but went on to win the sudden death playoff and a spot in the state finals with 11 other teams from around California. Both Michael Roberts and David Weber shot a team low 80 to lead Beverly to victory. Nearby Westlake is favored to capture the state title on its home course, North Ranch Country Club, on Monday, June 8th. Along with the team state finals, the girls' individual CIF finals will take place on June 8th at North Ranch. A second-year golfer, Christy Park, and freshman Jennifer Choi will be representing Beverly in this tournament. Park won a varsity letter this year for her outstanding achievements. Schools ranging from San Diego to Bakersfield will be competing. To qualify for this competition, the girls must have an average score of 86 or less. Only 40 girls will compete in this one-day event. Marlo?
1987's varsity football team will try again to be at the top of the Ocean League. The team's strong point is defense, which has been the best in the league for the past 5 years. There are several returning defensive starters, including first All-League defensive tackle Josh Hames and Mike Sutton at safety. The offense has several players returning as well and will look to Willie Crawford, MVP of league last year, to run the ball with the same authority as last season. Also returning for the offense are All-League tackle Aris Gottlieb, center David Garber, and Jeff Roach at guard. Jason Goldberg will be the starting quarterback for the upcoming season. Coach Dick Billingsley stated that the team is slightly more balanced this year. They'll be able to run the ball with more authority and throw the ball with much better. That's all this week's Norman Sports, and now back to more Norman News. Eric?
Well, thank you so much, Marlo. Beverly's Technical Arts Department will be presenting Expo Tech 87 on Tuesday and Wednesday, June 2nd and 3rd. The display can be viewed in the student cafeteria from 8:15 to 3:30 both days, and also from 7 to 8 on the 3rd. The Expo Tech consists of 3 competition divisions. There are photography, graphic arts and architecture, engineering and robotics, and model building. The Beverly Hills Rotary Club will help give out the awards, which will include 1 outstanding, 3 superior, and 3 possible honorable mentions. Jenny?
Does not matter whether you are rich or poor, from a good family or not, you can still get involved in crime. These were the words of Don White of the California Youth Authority. White, who is a youth counselor, accompanied 4 incarcerated youths from a youth camp in San Bernardino. The 4 youths had committed various crimes, ranging from 2 attempted murders to grand theft auto. The youths addressed the social studies classes and the Law Society last Thursday, May 28th. The youths spoke about their various mishaps and criminal activities, attributing their involvement to gangs and drug dealing. Carl Levin is here with his review of the movie Amazing Grace and Chuck. Carl?
Thanks, Jenny. Amazing Grace and Chuck is the story of an unusual friendship that spans from the mountains of Montana to the highest corridors of power around the world. It is a movie for everyone who believes that one person can make a difference. Alex English, the power forward for the Denver Nuggets, makes his film debut as Amazing Grace Smith, who coincidentally enough is also a basketball player, who decides that his moral convictions are stronger than his desire to be a great ball player. Joshua Zwelke, a 7th grader from Minnesota, also makes his acting debut as Chuck Murdoch, a young man who abruptly leaves childhood behind when he decides that there must be an end to nuclear war. Academy Award winner Gregory Peck returns to acting after a 5-year absence, and he fills the role of the President of the United States. Jamie Lee Curtis also stars in the movie as Amazing's agent and confidant Lynn Taylor. In this scene, you get a clip for what it tastes like. What did I say?
Is it true your new life is as satisfying as you
How about
thought?
your team buddies? Stuart Shipley, fellas. Anything to report tonight?
Shooting home.
How's your teammates feel? Have you been in contact with them?
I'm late. Sorry.
Yeah? Well, some boy, a big kid, called your sister a foul name today. Then he pushed her down. She's okay. She was scared to death. Your mother has to use the back door to her own home now. Would you like to hear some of the calls I'm getting down at the lumberyard? Huh?
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1.
One of the most unanticipated obstacles in the production of the film was the difficulty in casting the title roles. After seeing over 4,000 professional actors, open casting calls were organized throughout the country. It was through this exhausting process that Lynn Stallmaster and Associates found Josh, whose mother saw a notice in the paper. Alex English heard about the movie through the Players Association and requested a script to be sent to him. He soon beat out thousands of other professional athletes and actors for the role of Amazing Grace. Rated PG from TriStar Pictures, Amazing Grace and Chuck on the 11 scale from 1 to 11 gets an 8. David Field, a former production executive turned independent producer, wrote and directed the film, which was directed also by Mike Newell. Field summed up his involvement with the movie by saying, "Amazing Grace and Chuck is about the price you have to pay and the tribulations to go through to become a conscious person." Now let's go back to more Norman news with Jenny.
A special seal will be affixed to the diploma of seniors who have completed 3 years of a laboratory science, a foreign language, and mathematics, including second-year algebra trig. The Scholars Program is sponsored by Solivine, and this is the first year of its existence. That's all for this week's edition of the Norman News Service.
Well, next week will be our final show of the year, the senior show, and I won't be here, but you can join Randy and Tasha, and they'll have all the week's news and sports. Until then, have a great week. Goodbye.
Bye.